All right, you've written the rough draft of your personal narrative essay, and now it's time to start revising and improving it. And I think a lot of times teachers give pretty vague directions when they tell you to go back and revise your essay. I think there are obvious things to look for: run on sentences, spelling errors, problems with capitalization, using the wrong word. But those aren't ultimately the things that are going to set your essay apart from somebody else's and really make it great. So I try to be very explicit about what I ask my own students to do when they revise. I'm going to go through a series of videos and show you some different strategies for actually improving the content and writing style of the essay. So let's go ahead and begin with this strategy. A teacher will come to you and they'll say, you know what, you need to add more details. What they really want you to do is to anticipate and answer your reader's questions. Okay, I'm going to repeat it. You need to anticipate, which means go ahead and guess what they're going to ask you, your reader's questions, and then answer them. All right, so here is how I would approach this. I always read my most recent draft out loud. It's better in this case to read it to another person, have them stop and ask you questions, and insert the questions as comments on your essay. However, you can still do something similar even by yourself. I'll tell you why it's important to read out loud, even if you're alone. It's because when your eye is reading silently, you're going to skim over the text and your brain's going to gloss over the errors and fill them in. When you slow down and say the words aloud, you will hear problems with sentence structure, cadence, word usage that you would miss if you were just looking at it and thinking the words. So I cannot stress enough, even if you are alone, read the essay out loud. So here's what I will do. I will read the essay out loud. And as I go through the essay, I am going to be looking for places where I feel like my reader might have a question. Like I said, if you're working with a second person, this is easier. They can mark that. I'm going to work by myself. Once I've done that, excuse me, I will go back and I'll show you how to add more details on three different parts of my essay. All right, here we go. Let's start reading. When I was 7, I got a new coat. This was a big deal for me. I hadn't ever had a new coat before. I always got hand-me-downs from my older cousin. Their clothes were nice, but it wasn't the same as getting to go to a store and pick out something brand new that was just for me. That year, my dad got a bonus from the union at work, so there was a little extra money. My parents decided that the best use of the money was to get me a very nice, very warm coat from the Jones store. This was very exciting. I never got clothing from a department store. All right, so in that paragraph, I think I questions that I would have as a reader is specifically, why is this such a big deal for this person? I'm going to highlight that, and because I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at that again. I'm going to keep reading. My parents set 4 ground rules for buying the new coat. It had to be bought at least 2 sizes too big so it would fit for multiple years. It had to have a hood because the bus stop was freezing and I usually had to wait outside for a long time. Whatever I picked out within the former 2 criteria, I was never supposed to complain about my selection down the line, for the coat could not cost more than $50. So I might have questions in here like, why was it they thought to put this rule in about never complaining? Was I the kind of kid who complained a lot? Were my parents really strict and just like couldn't stand a child, like complaining about anything? I feel like I have some questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. Mom took me to the Jones store in September when it was still warm outside. She wanted to make sure the selection wasn't picked over, and she wanted to be sure we had time to put it on layaway and pay it off before the weather got cold. Okay, so if you don't know what layaway is because you're young and you're not my age, you'd probably want to know what that is. Might be something I could clarify for my reader. I tried on several coats. There was a bright purple one that Mom liked, but I thought it was itchy. There was a bright pink one I liked, but Mom thought it was too flashy. Finally, we found a coat we both liked. It was mauve, purple, and pink mixed together. They had the coat in a size 14 girls, so it would fit in a couple of years. I wore an 810 at the time. It had a hood, and it was $49, just under the $50 limit. Perfect. We put the coat on layaway and came back every week until it was paid off in mid-October. I finally got to take my new coat home and wear it to school. I was so excited. Everything was amazing for 3 days. All the girls in my class told me how pretty my new coat was. I was so proud of that coat. I felt like royalty when I wore it. Then the unthinkable happened. The zipper broke. I don't mean, oops, it got stuck a little. I mean, it broke. The zipper got stuck. I kept pulling, then I panicked. I kept forcing the fob higher and higher until it stuck right in the middle of my chest. It wouldn't go up, it wouldn't go down. Even my teacher, Mrs. Zimmer, couldn't make it budge. She took me to the coat room and told me to put up my arm so she could pull the coat over my head like a sweater. I knew things were bad, but I was sure Mom would be able to fix it once I got home. Okay, so I have a question. I think this is going to be an important one. Exactly how did I manage to get the zipper stuck? Like, what was I doing that led to me zipping it up wrong? So I'm going to highlight this part because I feel like that's a place I need to answer a question. Okay, I'm going to keep reading and see if there's some more places. When I showed Mom that night, she was furious. She was angry I had been irresponsible and careless with my things. She tried everything she could think of to unstick the zipper. She rubbed it with dry soap to lubricate the track. It didn't work. She tried to use a bent paper clip to tease the teeth apart and get the zipper to move. That didn't work either. She even resorted to calling my granny, and none of those remedies were effective either. The zipper was ruined. You know, and I think I could ask, like, when the zipper was ruined, like, what was the reaction to that? Like, I think I kind of get to that in the next paragraph, but I do wonder if I could expand on it. Well, we keep going. By the time my dad got home, I was crying. Mom was crying. He was the voice of reason. He suggested we take the coat to the tailor, have him replace the zipper, and the coat would be good as new. Yes, a zipper repair would be expensive, but not nearly as expensive as a whole new coat. I felt intense relief. The problem would be solved. The next day, Dad dropped off the coat at the tailor. It would be ready in a week. I would be cold and miserable at recess, but I'd get my beautiful coat back soon. Question, why would I be cold and miserable? I mean, couldn't I have worn something else? Maybe I should clarify. On the day the coat was ready, I went with Dad to the tailor to pick it up. I couldn't wait to get my perfect new coat back. The tailor went into the back and brought out the coat. He laid it on the counter. That's when I saw the zipper. It was bright red with thick, bulky brass teeth. My dad, not being the person who gave a lot of thought to fashion. Actually, you see how when you read it out loud you hear things? My dad, not being the sort of person who gave a lot of thought to fashion. That sounds a lot more clear. Was pleased. He thought it looked good and sturdy, like it would never break again. I wanted to cry, but knew better. I'd be in more trouble if I started bawling. Reluctantly, I put on my now ruined coat and we went home. So why would I be in more trouble if I started crying? I think I could answer that question. I was sure that when Mom saw the coat in its present state, she would drive right back to the tailor and demand that a proper matching zipper be put in. But I was wrong. Both my parents felt the ugly red zipper would teach me a valuable lesson about taking care of my belongings and about the consequences for what would happen if I didn't. I remembered how big the coat was and how long it would fit me. I realized how long I would have to wear this hideous coat with its hideous zipper. I knew there would be no point in arguing or having a fit. Their minds were made up. This was my fate. I would wear this coat for well into 3rd grade, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was so upset that I went to bed without dinner. I cried myself to sleep. The next day, I wore my coat to school. The teasing started as soon as I got on the school bus. You couldn't miss that red zipper in my mauve coat. That should be as well, have been a flashing neon sign. It hurt my feelings when they said it was ugly, and it hurt my feelings when they said I was ugly for wearing it. See, I missed another word. Caught it because I read out loud. But what hurt most was when the children said my family must be poor if that was the best coat they could buy me. The teasing and bullying were brutal. They could see how much their taunts upset me, so it fueled them to keep going with the cruelty. I feel like I could make that sound better. It fueled them to, like, continue their cruelty. I feel like I could, be a little clearer. I figured out I could hide the zipper if I folded my scarf just so, then safety pinned it in place. That kept the other children from seeing the red zipper and remembering to make fun of me. However, there was a price for this safety. I couldn't run around and play at recess with the other children. The scarf might move out of place. The zipper would be exposed. Teasing and mocking would start again. Starting in the first grade, I sat on the wall by myself at recess and read books. I pretended it was because I liked to read and didn't want to run and play, but that was a lie. I wanted to swing and play kickball, but I wanted to preserve my dignity even more. Who'd have ever thought that something as simple and small as the zipper on a coat could so profoundly change how I felt about myself and how I was treated by my peers? Okay, now I've gone through the essay and I've highlighted a bunch of different places where I thought my reader might have questions. For now, I'm just going to pick 3 areas. Now, I may go back later and do even more, but for now, I'm going to pick 3 places to answer some questions. So this first question, why was this such a big deal for me? So I'd never had a new coat. I always got hand-me-downs from my older cousins. So I'm going to unhighlight this, I think, just because I'm working with it now. I had never had a new coat. I always got hand-me-downs from my older cousins. Both my parents worked hard at their jobs, but my dad was a ditch digger for the gas company, and my mom was a teacher. Oops, I should say A. So let me see if that sounds good. Both my parents worked hard at their jobs, but my dad was a ditch digger for the gas company. My mom was a teacher. Not exactly, like high-paying professions. And then I need to change this because I'm breaking it up. My cousins' clothes were nice, but it wasn't the same as getting to go to a store. Okay, so I added some additional information there. All right, let's pick 2 more places to see if we can answer some questions. So let's go down here. I think I'm going to explain layaway just because people may not know what that is. So layaway is when you go and you want to buy something and you pay it off like a tiny bit at a time. And you go back every week. They hold the coat and you pay each week. And when it's finally paid off, you get to take it home. I'm going to say back when I was a child, you could, pick out something expensive, then pay it off little by little, and eventually get to take it home. Okay, so I sort of explained what layaway was. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to pick 1 more spot. Now notice I could go ahead and add more here. I could add more here. I could add more here and here and here. And I probably do want to go back and do that. But I don't want to get overwhelmed. So I'm going to start with just 3. Just 3. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this one for my third. I would be cold and miserable at recess. That's because, the coat was at the tailor. Well, why couldn't I just wear something else? I would be cold and miserable at recess. And I think I can explain why until it was ready. And so I feel like I should explain my old hand-me-down coats no longer fit, and Mom had given them to another teacher at her school for her own daughter. That left me with no coat except the damaged one. guess I could say with nothing except the damage one, so I don't say coat, coat, coat over and again. Okay, so notice I've gone through and I've answered some questions, and that has given me a little bit more information for my reader. I could go ahead and go back and do the rest of these as well, but I wanted to show you at least three. So there's that strategy of add details by anticipating and answering your reader's questions.